Evil swept across Uvalde.
My 5-year-old did go to school, and having to explain to him why he had to hide under his desk for half of the day.
We owe those parents action.
This is not an excuse to infringe the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens.
Our goal and our hope and our belief is that we can find that common ground.
We have a genuine commitment to help address those mental health care challenges.
Hi there, I'm Monica Madden in for Josh Hinkle. Violence shook the nation this week, hitting close to home for our state. This week, we're focusing on the deadly mass shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde. What comes next, and will this lead to policy changes? I spent much of the week reporting on the ground in Uvalde, and for the people in that community, this pain is still raw, and they're still searching for answers.
In this small community, everyone knows someone.
Look at mine!
These kids, among the droves of people bringing something to memorialize the people who died in Tuesday's massacre.
To the one that died.
Their cousins survived the shooting, but not everyone was so lucky.
Little that passed away.
George Rodriguez is hurt, confused, and angry about his grandson Jose's death.
How? Getting arms in people's hands so easily. You just go to Walmart and buy a gun.
Rodriguez and the whole community want answers. How did this happen?
We're not there yet.
More questions after officials revealed details about the shooter's chats on social media.
It was discussed that Ramos being a school shooter. That was on February 28th of 2022.
And the weapons and ammunition he got his hands on.
He had purchased and had a total of 1,657 total rounds of ammunition. 315 of those rounds were inside the school.
And why it took more than an hour to stop the gunman after he started shooting at the school.
Of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision, period. There was no excuse for that.
Parents who rushed to the school Tuesday, desperate for answers, now still left with more questions about how this happened.
We've heard people wonder if this deadly mass shooting will bring a lasting push from the public to change gun laws in Texas, even with the emotion of seeing the children killed. History shows us that public opinion on guns is unlikely to shift much. Polling from the UT's Texas Politics Project gives some interesting context. In February 2019, they asked Texas voters if the state's gun control laws should be more strict, less strict, or left alone. Less than half said more strict in that February poll. 17% said less strict. 30% said gun laws were fine as is. Then, in August that year, we saw a pair of deadly mass shootings. First in El Paso. The gunman posted an anti-Hispanic manifesto online and then went to a Walmart store, opened fire, killing 23 people. The gunman surrendered, and he is still awaiting trial. A few weeks later, a man went on a shooting spree across Midland and Odessa in West Texas. He killed 7 people before police shot and killed him. The gunman had been blocked from buying a gun after being flagged by a criminal background check. But he later got a gun in a private sale. That didn't require a background check, going on to use that gun in his massacre. The Texas Politics Project polled Texans again in October, asking the same question from earlier in the year. Should Texas gun laws be more strict, less strict, or left alone? The 2 mass shootings barely moved public opinion. Just over half of Texans polled said they wanted gun laws to be more strict, a slight increase. 13% said less strict, a small decrease. You'll remember that Texas lawmakers did not leave gun laws as is. In last year's session, Republicans pushed through legislation to reduce restrictions. Now, Texans aged 21 and older are allowed to openly carry a handgun without a permit. This time, Governor Abbott is signaling that any action from the state is going to focus on mental health. Here's what he said at a Wednesday news conference a day after the shooting in Uvalde.
I think it's a fair statement that legislative leaders understand about health challenges in the more rural settings in the state of Texas, and we have a genuine commitment to help address those mental health care challenges.
As Abbott finished his remarks, his Democratic challenger for governor, Beto O'Rourke, stood up to speak uninvited. In a tense confrontation, O'Rourke challenged the governor, demanding to take action to prevent more mass shootings. O'Rourke was quickly escorted out, and he spoke to reporters outside, criticizing Abbott's response after that 2019 mass shooting in his hometown, El Paso.
In fact, the only thing he did was make it easier to buy a gun. The only thing he did was make it easier to carry a gun in public. And he bragged about the fact that there would be no background check, no training, no vetting whatsoever.
Our team asked O'Rourke about what he sees as needing to be done when it comes to guns. He listed 4 items he said would take priority if he is elected. 1, universal background checks for gun purchases. Red flag laws to potentially take guns away from a person determined to be a risk to themselves or others. Extreme risk protection orders to keep guns away from potentially violent subjects. And lastly, safe storage laws, particularly to reduce the risk of guns getting in the hands of children or others who should not have them. Unless Governor Abbott calls a special session, state lawmakers will not be able to pass any new policy on guns until next year. But senators in Washington will soon decide whether to act on a background check bill. Democrats are all on board, but this bill needs support from at least 10 Republicans in order to move forward. As Anna Wernicke explains, that's putting a spotlight on one senator from Texas.
We've been here over and over and over again.
At a rally outside the Capitol on Thursday, Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy told gun control supporters he's hopeful that after a decade, Congress is now on the brink of passing a bipartisan gun safety bill.
Our goal and our hope and our belief is that we can find that common ground.
Murphy and fellow Democrat Richard Blumenthal are pushing for expanded background checks and so-called red flag procedures.
Taking away a firearm, a weapon, from someone who shows they are dangerous to themselves or others.
But to garner the needed Republican support, Murphy will need to convince Republicans, including Texas Senator John Cornyn.
This is not an excuse to infringe the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. Doing that will do nothing to fix tragedies like this.
Cornyn says he's open to negotiations, but other Senate Republicans, including Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, say limiting access to guns is off the table.
I just don't think gun bans work.
Instead, Kennedy argues the best way to stop mass shootings is to focus on mental health.
We are going to work our tails off to try to get that compromise.
This is not an invite to negotiate indefinitely.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says senators only have 2 weeks to come up with a compromise.
Anna Wernicke for State of Texas.
Senator John Cornyn previously worked across party lines to pass gun legislation. It happened in the wake of the 2017 mass shooting at a church in Sutherland Springs. His bill closed a loophole to improve compliance with gun purchase background checks. Cornyn spoke to reporters about that legislation and shared his thoughts about the next steps.
What realistically can get 60 votes among the Republicans?
Well, this is a new development. Buffalo is a new development. I think there's a sense of, urgency that maybe we didn't feel before. But so we're going to try it. I mean, that's all we can do is try, and that's what I'm going to do.
A bill to expand background checks failed in the Senate back in 2013 in the wake of the massacre at an elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut. That bill fell 6 votes short.
Renewed calls to bring back a ban on assault-style weapons. We investigate claims that mass shootings rose after the ban was repealed. After the last mass shooting in a Texas school, lawmakers launched a task force to find ways to keep students safe in school. We dig deeper into their report, what took effect, how it's working, and the ideas left behind.